Morning.
Good morning. Jess, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing fine. Drive safe, my friend.
Thank
Absolutely. We
I'm
got
gonna
Rita and
mute.
Peggy. Good morning. Brianna, good morning. Natalie. Got all kinds of people
Good
here today.
morning.
Thank you. Happy to see everybody. Lindsay and John, man, we got a fabulous group here, and I got a couple of others we got to admit. Perfect. Brandy, I'm going to share that link that you had just asked me to share. Or do you want me to wait until you explain that and then I'll put it in the chat?
Yeah, if you wait, there's a slide that will talk about the Empower Her Mastermind series. And so we can share it there, and
Okay,
anybody that's interested can sign up.
perfect. That sounds real good. I will do a quick intro of me and what we're all about, and then I will turn over to you if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Um, Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin McNicholas, school social worker for the Gillespie School District. 8 years ago, Chaz, who is also here with us, and I and another friend and colleague of ours, Nate Blaza, started Mental Health First Responders and grew from the three of us to we now have 501 members, incredibly. So we're over the moon excited about all of this and happy to have everybody here today. Want to introduce another longtime friend and colleague, Brandi Kelly. She's going to start us off today. Brandi, thanks.
All right, Kevin. Well, thank you for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and navigate some of these controls to where I can see everything. All right. So today, like Kevin said, we met during my time at Mount Olive School District. I was the superintendent for several years, and we were talking a little bit before everybody joined us. Everything happens for a reason, and that's how we met. And so I am grateful for that connection and grateful to be here. So as we're joining today, I'm just curious if you're able to do so in the chat. Drop in the chat who you are, where you're from, and maybe something today that you are hopeful for, because what I'm going to talk about today is hope in action. And my plan is to give you some tools and some resources to take away when you leave today. So while you're putting that in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a brief story. So I started out in education about 25 years ago, and I started out as a school social worker. Then I became a principal and then a superintendent. But from my social work days, there was a social worker that really stuck with me. Her name, I'll call her Miss K. She was my mentor. She was a good friend and somebody that I've known for a very long time. And every day she showed up, just like many of you do. And she worked with students who were dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma, loss, you name it. She supported her students and her staff through conflicts. She supported and comforted families who were navigating immense challenges, challenges that many of us can't even imagine. She was always the calm in the storm. She was ready to listen, to problem solve, to offer hope. She was an amazing, amazing social worker. She is now retired and she's enjoying life very much these days. But at home during that time, she was also carrying her own grief. She had lost somebody, it was a young child. And that weight of grief kind of sat quietly in the background. Every day she kept showing up. She barely noticed it when she was at work because she was giving. She was doing. Somebody always needed something. If that resonates with you, somebody always needs something. Put yes in the chat or an emoji that you like. Now, when she went home at night, the nights were the hardest. She would replay her day's struggles. She would think about students who hadn't eaten breakfast, teachers on the brink of burnout, and I think that has even increased in the recent days. And she would think about the parents that she had talked to throughout the day that were desperate for guidance. But herself, she wasn't taking time for herself. And one day I went to work and I went to her office and she wasn't there. So I went looking for her and I found her crumpled in the corner of the girls' locker room and she was crying. that moment hit me really hard. Here she was, someone who spent her days giving, caring, holding hope for everyone else, but she was completely running on empty. If that sounds familiar, drop an emoji in the chat. Over time, she realized that while she was pouring all of this hope into other people, she didn't have anything left for herself. Slowly, she began to make some changes. She began to implement what I now call my system of hope. She was setting boundaries for herself. She got a counselor and she was seeking support, and she began healing from her own grief. And as she did that, her ability to support others grew. She was good to start with, but she got even better when she started taking care of herself. And she discovered that in order to help others thrive, she had to first hold hope for herself, and that meant taking care of herself. So I'm curious if you're in this space right now, or maybe you're listening after this is put on YouTube, name your challenges. What's keeping you up at night? If you're comfortable, drop those challenges in the chat. More often than not, those are the same challenges the other faces on this screen are dealing with as well. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote my book, Lead with Hope. I created the system, HOPE. It's a practical framework to help counselors, social workers, leaders step off of that hamster wheel and to intentionally build hope, resilience, and effectiveness for you and also for the people that you serve. So today I'm going to teach you how to use the HOPE system in your work and for yourself. So here's a quick overview of the HOPE system. H is for habits, and these are the small intentional routines that create consistency and momentum. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what those are specifically. O is for optimistic outlook. Everything starts in the mind, right? That mindset piece, that's what this is. And it's important to shift from a problem focused. You guys, as social workers and counselors, you are navigating all of the challenges, all of the problems. You're the person people bring them to. And we need to shift that focus from problems to possibilities, to positivity, a strengths-based perspective so that you can find hope.
Brandi, I apologize for interrupting. We're not
Yeah.
seeing your slides.
You're not.
No, which apologies, because I know I interrupted your flow.
You're fine. Let me see. I'm glad you interrupted me, though. Let me see. I'm having some technical difficulties. Bear with me.
It's all good. I can make you full
Oh,
host if you
I
need.
see what I'm, no, I see what I'm, there we go. All right. Now, do you see
Perfect.
them?
Yep. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, I apologize. We'll get back to. All right. So we started out with the H, which is the habits. Those are the intentional practices that, we use to create the consistency and the momentum. The O is the mindset piece, shifting your focus to strengths, to possibilities, to hope. The purpose piece is identifying what drives you, your passions, fostering the things that you love, the things that bring you joy, reconnecting with your purpose, and tapping into that growth mindset with perseverance. And then finally, E is excellence, measuring progress and following through, celebrating growth. Sometimes we lose sight of celebrating those small wins. We're looking for that big goal, that big impact, but celebrating those small wins is so important. And through this system, as we're feeling overwhelmed and stretched thin and constantly being pulled from one thing to the next, This HOPE system gives us a framework. It gives us a system. And it's grounded in Dr. Rick Schneider's HOPE theory. It uses goals, agency, and pathways to help us build self-awareness, to envision what the future can hold, and to create an actionable growth plan. So for you right now, again, if you're comfortable, if you're not comfortable, no pressure. If everything were working at its best right now, or sometimes we use the magic wand question in counseling. If you could use that magic wand and change anything, what would change most about how you lead, you work, and you feel each and every day? If you're comfortable, drop that in the chat, just so other people can see that they're not alone. And today I am going to kind of walk you through, I have a leader wellness checklist, which we're not going to do the checklist today, but I want to give you some simple strategies that you can immediately implement that align with the system of hope and will help you to take care of yourself, because the simple things, the small things, that's powerful, and rest is essential. We all know that we can't pour from an empty cup, but for some reason, we consistently try to. I know I did as a social worker, as a principal, and as a superintendent from time to time. So I'm going to go through a few of these strategies that you can potentially put into your life today. The first one is micro breaks. Such a small thing, but scheduling small breaks throughout your day. Practicing mindful breathing, stretching, or taking a short walk. You know, sometimes we take a break, but what do? We reach for the cell phone and we doom scroll, but we know that that's not good for our mental health. Scheduling micro breaks, putting calendar wedges in your calendar at the beginning of the week as you're proactively planning your week, and implementing those things that are good for you, whatever fits your personality and your lifestyle. It might just be sitting quietly for 5 minutes. Whatever works for you, that's what you need to implement in your calendar, and schedule those micro breaks so you can take care of yourself. Another one is protecting your sleep and using sleep for recovery. My dad years ago was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I would go with him to the neurologist from time to time. One of the things the neurologist would tell him when he was struggling with insomnia and not sleeping for days at a time is to turn off the screens, especially right before bed, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Turn off your screens, and that is going to improve your quality of rest. So again, just a very simple strategy, but something that works so very well. The next one is one that I will be honest and say that I didn't do a wonderful job of when I was in the grind, but I am doing much better today. The biggest one was eating healthy snacks, you know, planning out your day, having your healthy snacks, fueling your body, not skipping lunch. I would push right through lunch and not fuel my body, and drinking plenty of water. Anywhere from 64 to 128 ounces is the recommendation, depending on the source that you read. But being intentional about fueling your body is so important. And as we get older, we notice those health consequences even more and more. So doing this proactively is important as you implement these practical self-care strategies. This next one is the one that most of the leaders that I work with say is the most challenging, and that is setting boundaries, setting healthy boundaries. But before we can set healthy boundaries, first, we have to identify our priorities. So I have a value assessment that I utilize with leaders, and we have to get clear first on what we value. My values are faith, family, and service. And so if I say, for instance, that family is a priority, but I am consistently not scheduling time with my family, is it truly a priority? We need to align our values and our priorities with how we are spending our time and what we are saying no to. And when you're really clear on what your priorities are, saying no is much easier. And you can say no when it doesn't align to your priorities. Saying no is not always easy, but when you align your priorities, you practice that word, no, it doesn't align, or that phrase, it becomes easier and easier with practice. And you don't have to over-explain, you don't have to rationalize. No, it doesn't align is completely sufficient. And then the last strategy I want to share with you is nurturing your mental and emotional health. This one is one that really works well for me. It's starting and ending my day. I read the Bible every morning. I pray every morning. I do gratitude practices. Some people use affirmations. Starting your day or ending your day, or maybe both, with those kinds of practices is life-changing. The other one there with nurturing your mental and emotional health, we recognize as helping professionals that our whole being is mind, body, spirit. We've got to take care of our whole self. And another way you can do that is by connecting with a trusted friend, a mentor, or a colleague, maybe a coach, every single week. Look at the quality of your relationships, and sometimes that will tell you, the longevity of your life. There's a 85-year-old Harvard study, and they talked about in that study the importance of relationships for longevity and quality of life. So nurturing those connections and those relationships in your life is so important. And just remember, this is something that you don't want to bite off too much at one time. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. So start small and build over time, because the small steps, they create momentum. You're creating hope by doing these things because you're modeling them. You are a leader in the space that you serve in, and people are seeing how you are taking care of yourself. And so when you're telling them to do all these things, but you're not doing these things, you're not modeling it very well. And that's something that we can intentionally get better at and follow the hope system. Just get 1% better every day as you build that excellence. And that helps you to lead other people well. Now, this next piece is just kind of looking at the hope system, okay? Pulling all of this together. Habits, optimistic outlook, that's that mindset piece again. Purpose, passion, perseverance, and excellence. I've talked about a lot of habits. Some additional ones that you could implement would be daily check-ins, checking in with an accountability partner, journaling, doing a mind dump. When I was writing my book, I found that writing was so cathartic for me. And it helped me to move past some things I was stuck on. Scheduling the micro breaks, we've already talked about that. For optimistic outlook, some of the practical strategies there are those gratitude exercises or reframing strategies. Take a thought audit. What are your thoughts? Research says that about 80% of our thoughts are negative, and most of those thoughts are on a loop. So if you look at your thoughts, are you saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I can't do that? Practice reframing those thoughts. Instead of the negativity, flip it. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm becoming a better version of myself. The purpose piece, this is goal setting. This is mapping your strengths. You have to get to know yourself better through self-awareness, but then identify where you want to be and map out your strengths and align. And then finally, that excellence. How well do you celebrate those small wins? As a school leader, I would often set goals and then I would move the goalpost, and I would never feel like I had done enough. But if we write down our goals, we track our progress, and we celebrate those small wins, we're going to build that momentum and we're going to get to where we want to go. And these small steps in each area, they build that momentum and that hope. So what is one or two strategies that you would be comfortable dropping in the chat that you could use aligned with what we've discussed here today? I cannot see the chat, Kevin. Do we have any comments?
Sorry, it froze up for a second, Brandy. No, I've not seen one yet.
Okay.
Will you repeat the question real quick?
Sure, sure. So looking at the hope system, pick one pillar and name a strategy that we've discussed today that you could implement.
I've got from Rita, sharing with my staff what the daily expectations are.
That's awesome. Yes. Clarity of those expectations. Absolutely. Clear is kind. That's what Brene Brown says.
I think for me, the optimistic outlook has been, I have coworkers who are, all the time, why are you so happy? And I'm like, doesn't cost a lot to try to smile. And I say to students, fake it till you make it, right? If you're smiling, something good's probably going to happen.
Absolutely. It all positivity, it all flows from that positive energy that you have. And, I have three grandsons. I'm getting ready to have my fourth grandson this summer, and they bring me so much joy. But I shared this story because I have written a children's book about spreading sunshine with kindness, and it's my first two grandsons, Jensen and Rhett's kindness adventure. And so I've just worked with a publisher, and it's going to press right now. So within the next 6 months or so, that will be published and out. But the reason I chose kindness is because of that optimistic outlook, Kevin. If you are spreading kindness and you are focusing on helping somebody else, turn that focus off of you onto other people and do good. And it's going to brighten your day as well. It's going to help them and it's going to help you. Kindness is a superpower that definitely lights the way. Yeah. Yeah.
Riley also shared building in micro breaks. I struggle to create time and space for myself and my relationships. I love the idea of even adding some of these practices to my to-do list as an additional form of accountability.
Oh, that's great. And Riley, I'll even add to that, finding somebody that is trusted, whether that's in community or a friend or a colleague, and hold each other accountable. Supportive accountability is so essential. And with that, it's a perfect segue to my next slide, which is I am forming that community. That community is forming now. And one of the things that we do in the community is we continue to learn and grow, just like we do in this community. And I want to invite you, if you're a female leader, join us for the Empower Her Mastermind series this year. In February, I have Casey Watts in the community, and she is talking on clarity of mindset in the midst of the swirl. I think we can all relate to that. Clarity of mindset in the midst of the swirl. And so, Kevin, if you can drop the registration link, it's completely free. It is February 4th at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, and I would love to see you there. I think you're going to get a lot of wisdom and practical strategies from Casey. She's an amazing speaker. And this is all part of the Spark Hope community that I am forming. And right now, there is introductory pricing, but right now I am allowing the first 100 women into this community absolutely free, completely free. And you will get the Empower Her Monthly Mastermind in this community. You will be able to be introduced to an amazing lineup. Casey is in February. Amy P. Kelly, she wrote the book Difficult Conversations with John Gordon. She's going to be in March. And I have some amazing speakers all the way through December. So would love to see you join. If you're busy and you join this community, the recordings will be housed in this community. So it will be instant replay, on-demand access. There's also a course in there that goes a little bit deeper on why hope matters. It's the research behind why hope matters and some additional content about leading with hope and the hope system. And then each one of the speakers that comes on, they're going to be providing some tools and some resources that will also be in the community. But most importantly, it is a supportive network of female leaders who are where you are. They are in the grind, they are walking it out, and we are just there to support one another. So this offer is for the first 100 people. So I hope you'll be able to join us. I also want to share with you today that in addition to being the CEO of Spark Hope EDU, I do speaking, I do coaching. I also provide counseling on Headway. It's a virtual only platform, and I work with older elementary students, high school students, adults, and I specialize in anxiety, depression, grief, and trauma. So if you are needing a resource, I know back in the day, finding counseling for students that was timely was such a challenge. So this is an additional resource that you can add to your list. And then I've shared all of these slides with Kevin. And in the slides, you're going to find the last sheet, which is my tools for leadership success. It's a link to join the community. It's a link to check out my podcast. I have a podcast called Lead with Hope. It's a weekly podcast, and some professional development offerings, some coaching offerings, speaking, the link for the Headway. But if you just want to connect with me, talk to me about anything that I've shared here today, have a thought partner. I also have my email. It's bkelly@sparkhopeedu.com. Reach out for a virtual coffee chat. I would love to connect with you, learn more about your pain points and how we can support each other, because we're all here to make a difference, to make an impact, and we're better together. So
That is amazing stuff, Brandi. Thank you so much. I'm beyond thrilled that things have gone the direction they have, because you have a ton to offer all of us. And cool opportunity for women in positions of leadership, and I think that's absolutely terrific. Just for everyone to be able to take that step out as you did. I mean, that leap of faith, really, and look at where it landed you. I think that's terrific.
yeah, I think when you follow your heart and you do what lights you up, everything else flows organically. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's definitely a worthwhile pursuit. And so, Kevin, if I may, the last question I would have for those that are here, the 24 people that are here, is it's a question I ask on my podcast every week. What's giving you hope right now? Because it's really important that we focus on the good, we focus on the possibilities. So I'm just curious, what's giving you hope right now? Anybody want to unmute or drop it in the chat? I would love to hear from you. So Kevin, let's start with you. What's giving you
Yeah.
hope?
Um, we just went to Winter Jam, huge Christian concert, and I saw my kids there just absolutely loving it and really just feeling it. So for me, it's kind of building in those practices. Matt Weld, Matt sent out, the best Christmas break ever, and I've kind of tried to focus on that stuff. Start my day 30 minutes screen free.
Yep.
Spending less time with technology and more time actually doing stuff that is meaningful. Um, so just kind of being intentional about resting, being intentional, and just saying to myself, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this to take care of you. Because I mean, for those of us, everybody here is in a helping profession, one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like so many of us, like you were talking about your mentor, pouring from that empty cup. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. So we got to take care of us. And I said this, you were here, and several people on this call were there over the summer. I mean, I used to think our most precious resource was the students, but if we're not there to help the students, if we're not there to teach them, if we're not there to take care of them,
Yeah.
they're missing out. So
Yeah.
it's very cyclical.
Yeah. I'm on the board at the Macoupin County CEO, and I had a couple of those students on my podcast, and I asked them what's giving you hope. And even the students in the CEO program talk about the students in the schools, in the program, in their circle of influence. That's what's giving them hope. And that's what Sarah said in the chat, past students who pop in to share successes. I love that. I had that experience so frequently whenever I was, in leadership, and there's nothing better than that. And then, is it Alina? I hope I'm saying that right. She said the impact my site has on the community. That's amazing. I love that. That's what we're after. We just want to make an impact and help make other people's lives better. So, Kevin,
Uh-oh.
thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, Brandi, thank you for being here.
Uh-uh.
Absolutely.
Sit up,
Uh,
baby, so you don't fall out your chair again.
I'll go ahead and chime in, Kevin, on what gives me hope and
Go
Brandy.
ahead, Rita.
Yeah.
Absolutely, please.
Hi. What a wonderful, insightful, love it.
Thank
Kudos
you.
for all that you're doing. What gives me hope first, is my faith. Family. I just got off 5 days of visiting with my 1.5-year-old grandson in
Oh,
Texas and
yeah.
looking forward to a little girl in April. So he's
Uh-huh.
getting a little sister. But then also, if I go to my service, I love what I do. Just letting the kids know there's alternatives. So I do drug prevention education.
Okay.
And so just, I hope that one day they realize, and you had kind of touched on it, put the cell phones up,
Mm,
and it's starting to change a little bit. Just,
yeah.
be in the moment
Yeah.
and, talking. And also I work with students who are caught doing something they shouldn't be doing if they're in academics or extracurricular activities, and just letting them realize that, they can be above it. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of my main hopes for the service that I do.
Absolutely. And Rita, I didn't share about this in this presentation because I wanted to focus more on you. I wanted more, to give strategies and ideas for how we can um, take better care of ourselves, because I know that's a struggle. It was for me too. Um, but all of this was kind of born out of tragedy for me. So for me, it goes back to Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called in accordance to his purpose. And it is important that I take the painful trauma that I experienced at 15 when my brother Brandon drowned, and I turn that around for good. And that's what Spark Hope Community was born out of. That's why another reason I wrote that book, Lead with Hope, is because those painful experience can either make us, to be kind of cliche-ish, they can either make us better or they can make us bitter. And I choose better. I choose to share the good stuff and add hope to the world. And through a message of hope, I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be contagious and we're going to share that with other people, and then they're going to share it forward. And that's how we make things better, little by little by little.
Well,
So
thank you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Just one last thing. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
How do we get your book?
My book is on
From
Amazon. It
Amazon.
is Lead with Hope, Building a System of Self-Efficacy. I can throw it in the chat, but yes, it is on Amazon.
Brandi, Elise says that was beautiful. Elise, I agree with you. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank
You're a
you.
very inspirational person. And don't you wish, Brandi and everyone, that we had the wisdom that we have now that we're seasoned? I'm not going to
Yes,
say anything other than seasoned, but
yes,
I wish 24-year-old Kevin knew what 45-year-old Kevin knows, but that's not
exactly.
how that one works. You gotta
It
have
sure
the
has
years.
it. Yeah, you do. You have to have and I say I have learned all the lessons and earned the wisdom, but unfortunately I did it the hard way. I took just about every hard path that I could, but you look back on it and it created the character and the perseverance and the person that you're looking in the mirror at. And hopefully you love that person, because there is something to be loved in every one of us. We are a child of God. And so love yourself and lead yourself well.
And Brandi, to follow up on that, has any of us ever learned anything the easy way? I know I
Good
haven't.
point.
I'll
Good
tell you a
point.
story about that sometime. But yeah, I've never learned the easy way. I don't know anybody whoever
Yeah,
actually has, but I think by learning the hard way, they're lessons well learned. I mean,
absolutely.
we take them in and we hang on to them. So,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, any further questions or feedback or anything for Brandi?
It's Romans 8:28, 8:28. And I would encourage you to read 8:28 and 8:29, but 8:28 is the one that I cite quite frequently. It's kind of my life verse.
And folks, for me, and I talk about this all the time in counseling, whether a person is Christian or spiritual in any way, shape, or form, having an understanding of what our purpose here is. I mean, I think we can generalize all of that into exactly what you said, Brandi, our
Yeah.
purpose. Why are we here? What are we doing? I'm a firm believer and personally living proof of everything happens for a reason. So, what's our reason? What's our purpose? And a big thing we're doing with our book study here at the elementary school is, everybody tells me, I'm tired of hearing, what's your why? It's always, what's your why? And I said, okay, so my question is, why are you still here then? Why do you
Mhm.
still continue to choose this? You can go way back and talk about, okay, why did I start? But why are we still here? Why are we still continuing to recognize what our calling is? Brandi, you and I kind of had a few sentences about this beforehand, but realizing, ladies and gentlemen, that this is our calling. That's why we're still here continuing to do this. And it isn't going to be that feeling of love. Oh my gosh, I love my job. I haven't loved being a school social worker for a long time, but I know I'm called to do it. It's a tough
Mhm.
job. It isn't fun. However, when something really clicks for somebody, when somebody walks away from me feeling better when they did, that's what that's all about. And recognizing, hey, we're not here in school. And here in school, we get the mindset of, oh, we get breaks and we've got, we work with kids, so it's supposed to be fun. It isn't always. However, to understand that, we're called to this and we're reaching people and we are making that difference. Sarah, you shared when students pop back in, kids you've helped pop back in to say hey and recognize that, you know, we really did make a difference. And I tell my students that's a compliment to you that you kept walking through my door to work on yourself. That's not me having any kind of, I don't have the wise magic. That's kids who are willing to do something about it who didn't like their situation. So a
Yeah.
real blessing, Brandi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Riley, probably a perfect segue, Riley, into your services as well on the mental health end of things. You got a lot of hearts, Brandi. This heart's floating all over the screen. I love this. I hope that all comes through in the video.
You're filling my bucket today. So thank you, everybody, and hope you all have a blessed rest of the day.
And any questions or anything for Brandi, you've got her info, and feel free to stay. Are you able to hang with us for a while,
I'm
Brandi?
gonna hang. Yeah, I'm gonna hang. And
Cool.
I meant that from the bottom of my heart too. If anybody wants to connect, go to my website, Spark Hope EDU, or email me. And I'm happy to do a virtual coffee chat. I love connecting with people, especially you are my people. I love the helping professionals. To my roots, it's what I came from. And so anytime that we can connect, I would welcome that opportunity. So feel free.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandi. All right, Riley, we've got you now, friend. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, talk about how do I follow that? Gosh, Brandy, you just set the stage and the expectations and everything so high. I'm like so empowered. I kind of forgot what I'm doing here today, but I feel it's a privilege and an honor to be in the presence of so many empowering, incredible, and impactful individuals. And I am newer to this space, but when we talk about finding our passion, I can gladly say that I have stumbled into a space where my passion is connecting. And if that's connecting with each of you, connecting your students, your families, anyone, my passion is truly to connect as an individual and connect with resources. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about who I am with and why I'm here today. So I will share my screen. Let's see. All right. Let me know if y'all can see this. Thumbs up from Kevin because I see you on my little bubble up there. Perfect. So my name is Riley, and I am with an organization called Charlie Health. And Brandy, you mentioned a lot of things that I think are applicable and relevant to what I'm going to talk to today. That, I mentioned that I'm a connector, and some of the pain points and magic wand kind of topics I are why I'm here and why I work with the organization that I do. Here at Charlie Health, our entire mission is to connect the world to life-saving behavioral health treatment. That is what we do. That is why we are here. And I think that widespread or that net can be so widespread. I can't see the chat, so if someone has questions, I'm so sorry. And Kevin, if you're going to be my support here, but really connecting the world to life-saving treatment, and that goes from services such as therapy or even connection or community, whatever that looks like. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about our program. So, our care here at Charlie Health. We are a virtual program, virtual intensive outpatient. So I'm located in the western suburbs of Chicago. However, I have the privilege to support individuals in communities all the way down in Southern Illinois, Western Illinois, across the country, in 40 additional states. In my home state of Kentucky, it's an honor and a privilege where the world that we live in, virtual is a part of it, right? Like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to all of you. I wouldn't have been so empowered by Brandi's speech and her connections if not for this virtual platform. So I know that it's not always our first preference, but the reality is it's not virtual or care. A lot of times it's virtual or nothing. And that's the world that we live in. So our continuum of care, if you can see here, if you look at the left side, I simplify this of a 1 and a 2 range. The left side would be outpatient. The right side would be 2. So that's like the highest level of care. Think your emergency rooms, think inpatient, think traditional IOP, PHP, things like that. So, with your populations that you're serving, there's a wide array of populations we can support here. But when you're thinking about the levels of care, so again, I'm using Brandi as an example, being an outpatient clinician, that would be a level 1. Maybe the social worker, someone like Kevin, right? Like that would be a level 1 type conversation level of support. Level 2 would be that inpatient crisis level, which we don't want to enter, but the reality is people do. Here at Charlie Health, we're right smack dab in the middle, 1.5. That's where we fall on the continuum of care. So a lot of times individuals think that they're not enough of something, right? Maybe they're a student in your chair that they don't feel like they're bad enough. But we don't want them to be bad enough to have to get to that next phase. So our program can be kind of a preventative method. On the reverse, maybe they're discharging from inpatient or have been in a crisis. We can support them on their transition because it's a really big step for sure. So again, I kind of talked about this a little bit, but there are a lot of different clients that we are able to support. So this kind of gives a visual of someone who's not making progress. So maybe they're not making enough progress, right? Maybe you are not able to support them with your availability, maybe the complexity, maybe they just need more than you are able to give. That's someone we can help support. Maybe they have some serious behavioral health warning signs. Maybe it's when I think of outpatient spaces like pediatricians, that's something where a lot of students and families show up, or even adults with their primary care physicians show up with symptoms that are masked behavioral warning signs, and we're not aware of those. That's where we can have those conversations, not just with schools, but with any provider, any person, any individual that is experiencing some of those masked symptoms. We can kind of help uncover those. Maybe the client whose caregiver needs extra support, right? Despite good intentions, maybe a caregiver or a provider is feeling overwhelmed, or they're unable to intervene, or unable to create an environment or provide a level of support that they know that the individual needs. So those are some. Oh, all right. So not the best fit. We'll start on this right side. Individuals with active psychosis, hallucinations, active suicidal ideation, active, very high level risks. You can see that those are on the bottom, but a better fit. So let's say, again, you can see here the age range. So 8 to 64, very wide age range. With this population I'm speaking to today, we can look at the examples of students. However, it could also be for us as individuals. It could be for our network, for our peers, for anyone that between this age range. That's who we can support, right? When you think of individuals that you see, so again, maybe students, because I feel like that's a lot of the population that y'all are working with pretty directly. Students are a complex group of lovely little people, right? They are, and they have their own unique needs. However, students don't just need support for them. They need support from their families, from their community, from their network that they're creating, right? So if you think of, students on that continuum of care, let's think maybe once a week therapy isn't enough for them, right? But they don't need that round the clock care. Where do they fall? Sometimes they get lost in the kind of translation between the two, and that's where we can come into play. One of the pros of this day and age is telehealth services everyone knows how to engage in telehealth now. Again, we are all here today. We are able to engage. We're able to understand the power that it brings, the connection that it brings. So that's exactly what we're tapping into. We actually started our program pre-COVID, oddly enough, but we know that the virtual world we live in can create connection, can create community, and that's what we're trying to do here today. So if you think of traditional barriers to care, so let's say again, we'll go with the student. If you see Sammy and I here, they're a little bit older, but we could change these ages anywhere from 8 to 64. So let's say that an 8-year-old student has the bipolar major depressive. Maybe we're looking at a 14-year-old identifies as trans, ADHD, gender dysphoria. Then we're looking at Naya, who's 20. She's a female, has anxiety, sexual trauma all the way up. Let's go even further to ages 60. Let's say someone has a history of complex PTSD and trauma, maybe from something like being a veteran or a first responder or whatever that looks like. Any of these ages and presentations, no one is spared from needing support. However, with any of these populations, any of these identities, some of the traditional barriers that we have seen are things like waitlist. We talk about urgency. We talk about needing care now. That is something very important. Waitlist or being outside of a client's safe space. Maybe if you look at this example, let's say that Naya, 20, female, anxiety, sexual trauma, she is probably not going to want to sit to someone next to someone like Sammy, right? Like that might make it feel even worse for her. She might feel even more isolated. So outside of that safe space is something that can be very triggering for people. It can also drive increased loneliness for people, right? A lot of times we're in a room where connecting with individuals from different walks of life has its power, but it also has where it can be even more of a disservice to that individual, right? It can create different emotions and invoke different feelings that we're not wanting to create, or even additional learned behaviors that we don't want to learn from our peers. And flexible schedules, that's another thing that can be very challenging, especially for students, for working individuals, working families. We don't have full flexibility. No one does anymore, right? So these are just some of the traditional barriers to care that we see. Also, not specialized curriculum, where again, there's a time and a place where we don't need that as much, but if we can create that sense of community, let's think about bringing individuals together with similar experience, similar walks of life, similar passion, similar lived experience. That creates a lot of connection. So those are some of the traditional barriers to quality care. And those are some of the things we're trying to find a solution for here at Charlie Health. So if you think of Naya and Sammy, who were on that screen, again, we'll go back up. So if you think in your head, think about a student, think about a person, think about an individual, think about someone, Brandi, in your example, think about someone that comes to mind when you think about someone that needed help. They needed support past what they had. And when you kind of had those conversations, why weren't they getting it? What was it? What was stopping them from getting there? So we try to provide the solutions to that. So you can kind of see that this visual creates a little bit more about our process here. But here at Charlie Health, we have no wait list ever. That's something that was very important to us. Someone that is referred our way, we will have a conversation same or next day, no matter who they are, where they are, what they are. That is something we very much so prioritize. And it is a top initiative of ours to ensure that time, time is of the essence, and we know that. So when we receive someone's information, we're contacting them same or next day, always. The other piece is affordability. So we here in Illinois are in network with most all commercial plans. So HMOs, PPOs, we have the self-pay. We have a lot of those options that we'll go through with an individual. Whenever we receive a connection to someone, we will run their verification of benefits, be very upfront about what they can expect moving forward. But we really want to ensure that that's something that we're working with them, that's not a hindrance, right? So if you see the Medicaid down here, that is a case-by-case basis. Here in Illinois, we're not in network with all of the Medicaids, but we are with one small branch of it. So we'll have those conversations. Again, maybe our program isn't in network, but what we can do is ensure that they're heard, ensure that they're seen. We can refer out, we can find the connections on both sides. Again, we're in the middle of that continuum. So maybe they're looking for an outpatient clinician who specializes in their specific population. We can make that referral down. we can make that connection. Again, we have an entire Rolodex of support on both sides. Maybe they need a higher level of care and they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. We can help make those connections based off of their needs, their insurance, the timing, etc. During that intake, we're actually going through and learning a whole lot about where they've been and where they want to be, not just where they are today. If they're having a conversation with us, we're learning about them. Are they a good fit? Are they not a good fit? If they're not, okay, let's find them someone who is. We're never just going to turn someone away because they're not the perfect fit for our program. We're always going to find a resource for them, a connection for them, someone for them, even if it's not us. However, our program here at Charlie Health is extremely personalized. So I mentioned things like students, right? We're using condition, age, lived experience, even things down to identity. We talked about religion. That's something we're being mindful of when we're connecting individuals. Maybe it's, again, gender identity, neurodivergence, lived experience such as maternal mental health. That's a population we can serve. Maybe even veterans. Again, that's very widespread, but we're taking those specific groups and lived experiences, bringing people together, matching them with individuals based off of those variables. And then scheduling. So when you're thinking about your students, or thinking about parents of students, or thinking about full working employees, individuals that come into our programming actually pick their schedule. So it's not assigned to them. So if let's say that Naya, she's 20 and she's in college and she can't miss classes. She can't get behind. We'll work around her schedule. Let's say a working professional, maybe a single parent. They've got to work. They've got to get their kids to school. We do evening sessions. We have programming available 6 days of the week, morning, midday, afternoon, evening, to ensure flexible scheduling so individuals don't have to choose between getting the help they need and continuing with their life. This is our full 360 ecosystem. So we provide a virtual intensive outpatient. That's our program. We have those facilitated groups, but we also have an hour of individual therapy a week. We have that family therapy a week. We have a full 360 ecosystem of psychiatry and med management. So we're not just looking at the one person, right? We're looking at the full spectrum of care. On top of our programming, we have a 24/7 crisis line. We have that discharge planning. We have family support groups, alumni support groups, all of these different programmings to really work around the full 360 ecosystem. Maybe our programming isn't what someone needs right now. However, we also have family support groups. We have groups for caregivers. We have groups for trauma. We have groups for loss that are maybe not as intense as our virtual intensive outpatient, but it's still bringing people together. It's free, it's providing connection, and that's really what we're looking to do is connect people, create that connection, even if it's not with our program, still bringing people together. So
Riley,
this sounds, yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
not to interrupt. We got a question for you.
Sure.
Appears there's 5 sessions a week. What other options are there for families who can't commit to that much?
Sorry, repeat that first part. I think you cut out.
Sure. It just said it appears there's 5 sessions a week. Are there options for families that can't commit to 5 hours a week?
So our program, again, it actually ranges even more than 5 hours. It's almost 9 to 11 hours a week. So that is pretty intensive. But if we're thinking, if it's a student that's trending in a direction, or maybe an individual that is concerned about their well-being, going into that crisis, higher level of care is a lot bigger time commitment than where we are. But if what we're offering is too much, individuals cannot just do individual therapy with us. They can't just do 1 hour a week or just psychiatry. However, that is where we have connections and relationships all over the spectrum on the continuum of care. So if they're looking for something, maybe 1 or 2 hours a week, maybe just that outpatient level, that's where they can still have a conversation with us. Maybe they're just at their wits end, they don't know where to go. We'll happily do a free clinical assessment for them and make that connection clinically, personally, availability on that lower end of the spectrum. So if they're looking for just outpatient, once a week therapy, psychiatry, we'll run through our resources and our support system and find them, make that direct referral outwards, even if it's not with us.
So you'll be looking more at the students who would be on the brink of being hospitalized and we're looking prior to hospitalization as to more of an intensive outpatient.
Potentially, or again, it could be preventative to ensure that they don't get there. So either way you're looking, it can be a step down from that higher level or a step up to ensure that they're not getting there. Either way.
Perfect.
Great
Perfect.
question though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then results. I'll just go through this one very quickly, but it sounds great, but does it work? By bringing people together with that common lived experience, common ground, we have seen a huge, huge uptick in not only success, but also attendance, also uh, efficacy, all these different things by uniquely curating groups, working to find solutions to those obstacles and to those barriers. We have seen a great success in how that's working for individuals. These are just some of the quantitative measures. Happy to go through by population specific ones as well. This is again just another one of those. And then how to refer. So I'm going to send Kevin information on how to get in touch with not only me, also with our organization. I'm happy to always be a resource to, if you have an individual, a family, anyone that's just not sure what to do, you can give them my number. I'm always here. I'm always a resource, happy to make that connection. We have our admissions line. Again, we have 24/7 Charlie Cares. We have admissions lines that are available same day. We can get them into a conversation, an intake session, same or next day. So a lot of different ways. So I'll send a recap on that because I know we're getting close to time and I don't want to run over. So a lot of information here. I feel like I've missed some of the things in the chat, but I'll send this information out for Kevin to share as well, because I know that, again, went over a lot of information. You might have a lot of questions, a lot of curiosities. I'll send a recap so y'all can kind of see our website, how to get in touch with me, how to get in touch with admissions, so on and so forth. But when you think about, being the best version of ourselves to be the best to take care of others, our program is not just for students. It's for families. It's for moms. It's for veterans. It's for those. No one is spared from needing support. And we're really here to try to bring those people together, make sure that we are able to create a world where we are supporting everyone, because no one's spared from needing those additional levels of support. So I appreciate y'all letting me chat with you today. I appreciate being connected. I see a question. Cost, it's a case by case. So we can chat more about that. It's per individual. It really depends on what they're doing, how much they're doing, if they're insured, if they're not. But you said if they don't have insurance, we can chat more about that. I can send you my information. So again, it's kind of a case by case situation. So happy to go over that with you and with the families if needed. But yeah, I'll send my info. Happy to chat more. Really looking forward to learning more about everyone on this call, and how I can support you for sure.
And Riley, you don't got to hurry off. We got time. It's all good.
Again, I get just like Brandi was saying, like the one-on-one type sessions, we can set up more because it's a very vast program too. There's a lot of questions, and it is case by case where maybe you have someone in mind, but you're like, I don't know if they would be a good fit. Let's chat more about it. Let's connect. Let's connect me with the family. Let's connect one-on-one. Let's set up some time. Let's call. Let's email. Whatever works for you works for me. I'm happy to go over a lot of those details. I'm happy to go over your caseload, your population that you're serving, and see how I can support them, you, and the population beyond that. Over the chat here. Oh yeah, when I see here the distance, that's something we see. Distance and wait lists, I think those are really big ones where maybe there's something available, but they can't go, geography, maybe, some of our population we serve, substance use secondary, things like that. Maybe they don't have methods of transportation. So that's one we hear and definitely are providing a solution to. Any more questions, comments, concerns for me?
Riley, I like how you highlighted how virtual is not an option. Virtual is the option for a lot of people. And I mean, I always look for positive COVID takeaways. I mean, whoever thought we would be doing this with the little Brady Bunch squares, but it's been the one and only thing for a lot of students. And again, I get you're in the Chicago suburbs, whereas us down here, that's why our network exists, was to kind of link people in our smaller communities in our area of southwestern Illinois to be able to say, hey, we've got, I know there's stuff out there and I know there's resources, but they're not all talking. So I think this is especially cool because we have the ability then to engage with Charlie Health, which is something much bigger than we typically have in our area, unless somebody was going to go to St. Louis. However, asking somebody from a small town to make the trip to St. Louis sometimes just not doable. But everybody got an iPhone, right? Everybody got a phone. Everybody's got the ability to get online somehow, somewhere. So I think that's
So
terrific.
we kind of switched. You mentioned being from where I'm sitting right now. Originally, I'm actually from Western Kentucky. So I was born and raised in Paducah, lived there the majority of my
Cool.
life. And so the reason, we're talking about the passion and all these different reasons why we are where we are, even though I'm sitting up here in the frigid Chicago suburbs. Again, I was born and raised in Western Kentucky. One of my best friends had a eating disorder that she was fighting for her life every single day. And she had to go to St. Louis. Now, she was lucky that she had the facilities and the resources and the support and the finances and all the things that were allowing her and enabling her to get that care. But not everyone is so lucky, right? Majority of people don't have that. They don't have the resources, the availability. And even here where I sit today, so many people are not able to get to the right levels of care. And, I know so many people back in Western Kentucky that if they're looking for resources, waitlist every single time. There's nothing within the geography that they're sitting in. Another one of my best friend's brothers struggling with alcohol and substance addictions. He said going to programming where he knows everyone around him, that doesn't create an opportunity for growth. That doesn't create a safe space for him. It's actually a hindrance to doing so. And so while there may be programs around him, what he was looking for, a program like ours is a perfect fit where, yes, virtual is not always, if it's like a detox type situation, but there are reasons why it works. Again, to your St. Louis piece. So I'm super passionate about connecting with individuals in Southern Illinois, in the Missouris, in those pockets of the world that are not able to, they're just not receiving the same education and connection. So that's a huge reason for why my passion and why I'm so excited to connect with this group for sure.
And Riley, to your point about you're in the community. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been sober. This will be year 23 for me now. I got sober in the middle of Green Street in Champaign when I was living there, and ironically enough, met my wife there 3 months later. At U of I, not in Alcoholics Anonymous. I should probably denote that. But in all seriousness, though, I know a lot of people really struggle because going to a meeting in Jersey County where I've lived for the last 20 years, I know a lot of the people there.
Yep.
Whereas you're in the same environment with a bunch of the same people, and people have a lot of preconceived notions. Versus, I know a lot of people, and I've recommended this to students and families as well. Do an online meeting, do some online therapy, something like that, where you're with folks who are still telling the stories and still walking the same walk.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks are like, well, I'm going to get out of my house, I'm going to go to the coffee shop, or I'm going to get out of my house and go to, wherever. But I still don't have to. I'm not going somewhere where people are going to have a bunch of preconceived notions about me. And again, a lot of our communities, Jerseyville is one of the bigger towns around here. A lot of our communities,
Right.
Gillespie, where I work, we've got about 3,500. A lot of the towns are real small, so you've got just kind of the same folks over and over. So
And to that theme of, substance use in general, abstinence and harm reduction are two very unique tracks. We are very mindful of that, and we're not putting individuals just with substance use label on top. We're separating past that. So maybe it's someone we talked about, maybe they're not at the point where they're, wanting to be fully abstinent, but they're sober curious. They're just wanting reduction. Those are different tracks here at Charlie Health. Similarly, with things like maternal mental health, grief and loss, and postpartum are two very different tracks here, and we're not putting those individuals together because, to your point, maybe a familiar face is their hesitancy, or maybe they're having very different conversations. And substance use in general, what's the addiction we're looking at, right? Is it, as it alcohol? What is it we're looking at? Those are very different conversations as well. So those are things we're very mindful of by creating those connections with very similar lived experience. But yeah, Rita, we have postpartum support where our maternal mental health is probably a track that I talk about more than absolutely anything because, again, it is something that I'm very passionate about, where postpartum is something where there are limited resources for. And again, to the virtual piece, when you have a little one running around or multiple little ones running around, you're breastfeeding, whatever it may be, that virtual piece is very helpful, very needed, very necessary, and it's a population that we serve and are very, again, looking to connect, support, provide resources because postpartum is something that is very, I feel like, underserved and under talked about. And that's exactly, again, Rita, a population that's very near and dear to my heart that any moms are, again, maybe it's infertility, right? Like that's something that's still a big conversation. And maybe you don't want to be next to someone that has three healthy babies running around, right? That's a big different conversation. So any moms, any woman, anyone in that general realm that's looking for support, happy to talk to them truly every single time. It's very important to me to find those connections.
And Riley, my friends and colleagues, Jen, Jackie, and Liz, who are our parent educators here in Gillespie with Family First, are on the call currently. What you just said about postpartum, they and I have had the conversation many times about healthy parents, mentally, physically, etc., are going to, you're just going to have such a better outcome with their kids, and that's so much of what we are seeing here is a lot of the calls I get, and I know most of the calls they get are from parents who are just struggling. So
Yeah,
cool, very cool that we've got all of you as a resource now. That's awesome.
definitely, definitely. I'm happy to, again, connect with anyone on that front, especially where I feel like there's such a disconnect where maybe moms are going and doing, their Edinburgh scoring, and then what? Then what? Right? Like I talk to hospitals all the time where moms are scoring these very concerning levels, or even those PHQ-9s for anxiety and depression. What's next? That's where I want to come into the conversation. Those are quantified metrics that are objectively, they're not a matter of opinion when someone is scoring over a certain threshold. So if anyone is scoring in a certain way, that's where I want to come in. That's where I offer support. That's where I'm here to say, we don't know what to do. A lot of, places aren't sure what the next step are. Send them to me. Let me help them find the next step that makes sense for them. That's exactly a population and a threshold, a metric that I'm here to support for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Riley. Any
Yeah.
questions or feedback from our community for Riley? Hearing none. If you don't mind, Riley, I've got your email, which I will share. And if you don't mind emailing your slides to me, I can send those out as well. If people want to take a look at those great resources, and I know that's got your contact info on there as well.
Yeah, I will send you a recap on a lot of different kind of things we highlighted for you to share as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
thanks for
Um,
having me.
thank you for being here, Riley and Brandi. This is, I say this frequently, but I sincerely mean it. I think this could well be the best meeting we've had yet. So many connections and everything. I'm thrilled to have all of you. Welcome to both of you here, and happy to have both of you as part of our community as well. So fantastic. Our next meeting, I need to look at my calendar. We've got February 19th, I do believe. So I will send that info out. Appreciate everybody being here, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next time. Thank you
Thank
all.
you all.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.